As I've been shadowing an amazing doctor in his wellness practice recently, I have noticed that a ton of people have been getting sick these past couple weeks. And so today I wanted to talk about my top 6 immunity supplements and not just what they are, but how to use them and what they actually do for you. Hi, I'm Pierce Whitley, your integrative health practitioner, bringing you weekly inspiration to help you pull up your health issues by the root. As we cultivate balance in our bodies, our soil will become inhospitable to symptoms. Welcome to Vitally Balanced. So, just a short preface before we actually get into talking about each different supplement. A lot of times in the natural health world, we slap a label on something like vitamin C, good for immunity, and we don't really talk about what it actually does or why it's good for immunity or how we should be using it. And so a lot of times that leads the industry in general, this world of natural health, to be labeled as not evidence-based or ineffective or it doesn't work or it's all a sham. And that's definitely not the type of stuff that I like. I'm very logical, and today we're going to be digging into each supplement at a level that I believe is practical for everyone. And I hope that with this information, you can learn how to use these supplements more effectively and more correctly to benefit your health and the health of your family and friends and everyone that you're going to be around. So the first supplement that we're going to be talking about today is vitamin C. And for people viewing on YouTube, I'll be able to hold up the supplements here. Got a little bit of a glare on it, and it's probably going to be flipped, the text, but I hope that you'll all be able to deal with that. So the first one that we're going to be talking about is vitamin C. Vitamin C is probably like if you say what's a good immunity supplement or what's a good nutrient for immunity. I'm pretty sure that 99% of people will be able to say, "Oh, I know. It's vitamin C." And for good reason. Vitamin C does have effectiveness in the immune system. But let's talk about what vitamin C is first. Vitamin C is ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid is the actual chemical that vitamin C is. Now a lot of people will talk about different forms of the vitamin C supplements. There are vitamin C supplements just made of ascorbic acid, and those can oftentimes be too acidic on your system. And so a form that I like to use is buffered vitamin C. That's vitamin C with alkaline minerals added to it. This particular one has calcium, magnesium, and potassium in the ascorbate form. So that means vitamin C is bound to those alkaline minerals. And that allows us to tolerate vitamin C supplementation better. Now, a lot of times people will say that simple vitamin C or ascorbic acid alone isn't very helpful for your immune system, and that you have to have a food source of vitamin C. Now, the reality behind this is there are certain health benefits from getting your vitamin C from a whole food form or even from a supplement that is from a concentrate of a certain food. For example, a lot of people will supplement with camu or acerola berry or acerola cherry for vitamin C supplements. And these are really potent, really high vitamin C foods, and they definitely do have their benefits. But please don't make the mistake of thinking that no other vitamin C supplements besides food-based supplements can be effective, because that's definitely not true either. We have to understand that there's nuance to this, and it's not an all for nothing. It's my way or the highway, those types of things. We can't be so dogmatic. So the form that I typically use for immunity is buffered vitamin C with those minerals added, but I'm not opposed to food-based vitamin C either. Vitamin C is an antioxidant, which means that in your body, when your body is fighting sickness, it generates things called free radicals. And these are molecules that are unstable, and they work to help kill whatever is hurting your body. And certain parts of your immune system are more destructive than others. And depending on the sickness you get, your body will have to be more destructive than other times. But a lot of the symptoms that we actually get when we get sick aren't because of the virus or the bacteria itself. A lot of times it's because of our immune system's response to the infection, to the virus or the bacteria. And what vitamin C helps to do is, as an antioxidant, it helps clean up that damage from it, essentially. And it causes the duration of a lot of these sicknesses that we get to be shorter. Now, vitamin C in the research hasn't shown effectiveness in preventing us from getting sick or anything like that, or preventing us the you know the preventing the occurrence of sickness, but it has shown effectiveness in decreasing the duration and the severity of these sicknesses that we get. So typically, when would I use vitamin C? In higher dosages, I would use vitamin C after I get sick, not necessarily as a preventative the whole winter long. I take a multivitamin which has vitamin C in it. I try to eat vitamin C rich diet. Specific things that I eat: bell peppers, kiwis, berries. Those are really high in vitamin C, and those will help shore up your vitamin C stores in just a normal world circumstance. But when you do get sick, what I have found to benefit people is supplementing with anywhere from a couple grams to up to 10 grams of vitamin C a day. And that's a lot, because a lot of the supplements that you'll see, multivitamins, let me see if I have a multivitamin here to check out. So this multivitamin here that I've got is by Seeking Health, and it's their optimal multivitamin without methylated nutrients in it, if you're curious. And they call it multivitamin 1 MF. And this is the multivitamin that I'm taking right now. And it's only got, this one doesn't actually even have vitamin C in it, because it's a very condensed formula. But, and it assumes you're eating a healthy diet. But most multivitamins will only have maybe 100 milligrams of vitamin C in it. And with sickness, a lot of times what I'm talking about is supplementing with thousands of milligrams of vitamin C. And that might seem really odd or unusual for many people listening to this podcast. And if it sounds weird to you, that's all right. But the way to make it very effective in therapeutic dosages is to megadose it. And the one thing to be careful of when you're megadosing vitamin C for a short period of time is that it can give you loose stool. And if you get loose stool, just take less of it. That's your body letting you know that it's reached its absorption tolerance, and it's going to shove all the rest of it out of your body. And that's all right. We're glad that our bodies are working with us. So that's vitamin C. That's how I would use it, and that's why it works. Let's move on to another nutrient, another vitamin, vitamin D. Vitamin C and vitamin D, again, the two vitamins you'd probably most easily consider part of a healthy immune system. And there are others too. Vitamin A is incredibly important for immunity, and there are other ones as well, but vitamin D is especially important. Vitamin D acts more like a hormone in our bodies than a vitamin. And what's great about vitamin D is some people have said vitamin D is your immune system. Now, of course, that's a hyperbole, but it shows you just how important it is. Vitamin D acts on vitamin D receptors in our body, and it's crucial. There have been so many studies showing that it drastically changes outcomes of sicknesses based on your vitamin D levels in your body, and that people with lower vitamin D levels get drastically worse outcomes from sicknesses that they get. And there's been an increased amount of research to do with the recent COVID that has been going around the past couple of years, and it spiked a lot of research on immunity supplements and immunity nutrients. And this is one that we've benefited heavily from increased knowledge about. And this is something that I even test for in my private health coaching practice, is vitamin D levels in your blood. And from that, we can learn how much vitamin D supplementation you need. Now, the reason you might supplement with vitamin D, some people say, well, I can just get all the vitamin D I need from the sun. And for some people, that might be true. But there are a couple factors that play into this. And I could do a whole podcast on vitamin D in the future, but it really has to do with where you live in the world and your skin color, because the darker your skin is, the more melanin you have in your skin, the less vitamin D you're going to be absorbing from the sun, because your body is going to naturally block out the sun's rays. And if you live in a climate that's very cold or far from the equator, the sun will be at an angle with the atmosphere that prevents you from synthesizing vitamin D from the rays that get through. And so those are just some things to think about. But if you're a pretty fair-skinned person living near the equator and you're outside for a lot of the day, and you're not wearing sunscreen when you're outside, then in those specific circumstances, you might be getting enough vitamin C or vitamin D synthesis from the sun. But in other situations, a lot of times you'll need to supplement. And the vitamin D that I supplement with is with vitamin K2, because it's necessary to work with vitamin D in the body, especially dealing with calcium in the body. Vitamin D works with calcium, and vitamin K2 is necessary to keep that in balance. But again, that's another podcast topic. The main takeaway is that those who have high vitamin D levels in their body have far better outcomes from sicknesses than those who have low vitamin D levels. And unlike vitamin C, vitamin D is a supplement, is a substance that can stick around in your body. It's a fat soluble vitamin. Vitamin C is a water soluble vitamin. So you're not going to be storing up a lot of it. But vitamin D is one that's important to be taking on an ongoing basis, because taking it on an ongoing basis will keep your levels high. The next supplement that I want to talk about is black elderberry. Black elderberry is an herb that has gotten extremely popular recently for helping with sickness and immunity, and people will even take it proactively before they get sick, which can have some merit as well. The main thing that I'm focused on with elderberry is that in a lot of the studies, it's shown that it has drastically reduced the duration of the flu by days even. And there's, just like any other nutrient, there is, of course, a little bit of conflicting research on this, but a good amount of the studies I have seen show very good improvement using black elderberry for the flu. And when we look at a study for a specific thing, we think, how can we extrapolate these results outwards? And so when I see a study on the vitamin C and COVID, or a study on the black elderberry and the flu, that could possibly just apply to those viruses. But a lot of times it does have impacts outside of that specific virus that has been tested. And I'm a fan of looking at things mechanistically, not just saying, well, it was shown that black elderberry works for the flu, so we're just going to use it for the flu, and we're not going to use it for anything else until we've done a double-blind placebo-controlled randomized trial that it works for something else. I'm all for evidence-based things, but we also need to be practical about things. And if black elderberry can help with, colds and other things like that, then I'm all for it. And definitely people anecdotally have seen that it helps with things like that. The one thing about black elderberry that I'd be cautious about is that a lot of times it comes in syrups or gummies that contain a lot of sugar. And I'm not saying it wouldn't be beneficial to take those, but we know that sugar is a big negative drag on our immunity. And so I would prefer just a pill form. This one that I've got specifically here is a pill form of black elderberry and of the extract. And that way it's more potent without the sugar. But if the only way you can get, especially little kids, to take elderberry is with a gummy or a syrup that's got a little bit of sugar, I think that could definitely still be beneficial. The fourth supplement I wanted to talk about is zinc. Zinc is a mineral that you can naturally find in the diet, just like vitamin C, and it works in a very unique way. It can actually, at certain concentrations inside of your cell, it can start to inhibit viral replication, or it can stop the virus from replicating and from producing more copies of itself. And that would obviously be very beneficial to our immune system. That's going to help us wipe out the virus a lot quicker. And so zinc is something that I employ whenever I get sick as well. And some people with certain mineral imbalances can find benefit from taking additional zinc on a ongoing basis. I take a blood sugar support product that has zinc in it, and it's definitely not a bad thing, but that would need, I would like to see testing just to make sure that you don't have a zinc overabundance in your body, or if it's pushing other minerals down in your body. I would be careful about just taking a whole bunch of extra zinc on top of your multivitamin every day. And so what I just use with zinc is typically I'll just use an extra 60 milligrams or so a day whenever I get sick or whenever my family gets sick. And that definitely helps us to get better quicker. One thing with zinc is you need to make sure to take it with food, because if you take zinc on an empty stomach, it can cause nausea and vomiting even. So don't do that. Just take zinc with food. I've never had a problem with zinc. None of my family ever has either. Just make sure to take it with food. The fifth supplement I wanted to talk about is colloidal silver. Now, silver isn't a mineral that our body typically uses, but it does have beneficial effects against microbes and against infections. Silver I've seen research that shows that silver can basically stop viruses from functioning. and that it can also shut down bacteria as well. So in both areas, it has been shown to have benefit. But the form of silver that you use is very important. Colloidal silver is a suspension of very small sized silver particles inside of water, in this case. And so my favorite brand for this is Sovereign Silver. And for other supplements, I would say there's a couple different brands you can buy from. As long as you make sure they're using the correct forms of the nutrients and their third-party testing, it will probably be fine. Silver is the one that I'm a little bit more picky about, and one that I would need to do some pretty specific research into different brands that I would use. So I just stick with this brand that I trust, Sovereign Silver. And so with silver, a lot of times what you'll do is you'll just take this dropper and you'll drop a couple dropperfuls under your tongue, and it can absorb sublingually under your tongue and get into your body that way. Another way that I have used silver in the past that I found to be very beneficial is I used to get pink eye a lot. And so whenever I did, instead of having to go into the doctor, I knew that I could drop silver into my eyes, and it actually cleared it up extremely quickly. The only time that it hasn't cleared up pink eye for me extremely quickly is when the pink eye was viral. And apparently that specific pink eye virus did not respond very well to silver, and it didn't clear that up right away. But every other incidence of pink eye I've had, silver has been immensely helpful with. And again, this isn't medical advice. I'm not saying you can cure pink eye with silver, but I'm just telling you that it has worked for me to rebalance my eyes and clear out that pink eye. And then the last supplement I wanted to talk about is one that you may or may not have heard of, regardless. I mean, depending on how much you might be in the health sphere, the alternative health sphere, is echinacea. And echinacea is an herb. So just like elderberry, it's an herb. And it's one that I don't always use when someone gets sick. It's definitely something you can add on. But essentially, it ramps up your immune response to whatever you're getting sick with. And for that reason, I usually only use it in the first 2 to 3 days of getting sick. And if you don't want to keep using it longer than that, but it can be useful to help nip something in the bud. And the echinacea that I use is from Gaia. I get almost all my herbal products from Gaia Herbs, including my elderberry as well. And I'd highly recommend that brand. I trust it. And what I would do with echinacea is, for me personally, I like in the way that Gaia instructs you to use it is to take it often throughout the day, small amounts often throughout the day. So I'd take 2 capsules every 2 hours, and that's the instructions they give on the bottle. And I find that does work well. So if you're looking for something else to add to your immunity repertoire, echinacea might be a useful herbal product. But again, I don't use it for every case of sickness. And if someone already has a hard time getting over sickness, such as maybe they're older or they've got they're predisposed, such as they've weakened immunity, they're obese, I wouldn't necessarily use echinacea, because we're not really wanting to ramp up their immune response in that case. Because remember, at the beginning of the podcast, I talked about that a lot of times the symptoms we feel from sickness are because of our immune system's response to whatever we're sick with. And if we're trying to ramp that up even more, we're just adding more gasoline to the fire, and it might not necessarily be good. But in most situations, echinacea can be a very useful tool in your immunity toolkit. Now, these are not the only supplements that I ever use for immunity. There are lots of different ones that I'd use, some that are specific to certain sicknesses. But just wanted to repeat at the end of this podcast that we're not treating, curing, or preventing any sort of medical disease. This is all rebalancing the body from a root cause level and supporting our immune system so it can fight off whatever we're facing. And if this podcast helped you at all, or if you feel like someone you know may benefit from this information, please share it with them. We need to get this information out there. I know when I was starting to learn about health and wellness, I wanted people sharing things with me. I wanted to learn. And if you feel like this would be helpful, make sure to share with someone in your life that might need it at this point. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you next Thursday.